The Bible in a year, day 39, Leviticus 8 and 9. The Lord said to Moses, "Take Aaron along with his sons and vestments, the anointing oil, and the bull for a purification offering, the 2 rams, and a basket of unleavened bread. Then assemble the whole community at the entrance of the tent of meeting." Moses did as the Lord had commanded. When the community had assembled at the entrance of the tent of meeting, Moses told them, "This is what the Lord has ordered to be done." Bringing forward Aaron to his sons, Moses first washed them with water, then put the tunic on Aaron, girded him with the sash, clothed him with the robe, placed the ephod on him, and girded him with the ephod's embroidered belt, fastening the ephod on him with it. Then he set the breastpiece on him, putting the Urim and Thummim in it. He put the turban on his head, attaching the gold medallion, the sacred headband, on front of the turban, as the Lord had commanded Moses to do. Taking the anointing oil, Moses anointed and consecrated the tabernacle and all that was in it. Then he sprinkled some of the oil 7 times on the altar, and anointed the altar with all its utensils, and the laver with its base, to consecrate them. He also poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to consecrate him. Moses likewise brought forward Aaron's sons, clothed them with tunics, girded them with sashes, and put skullcaps on them, as the Lord had commanded him to do. He brought forward the bull for a purification offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. When it was slaughtered, Moses took the blood, and with his finger he put on the horns around the altar, thus purifying the altar. He poured out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Thus he consecrated it so that atonement could be made on it. Taking all the fat that was over the inner organs, as well as the lobe of the liver and the 2 kidneys with their fat, Moses burned them on the altar. The bull, however, with its hide and flesh and dung, he burned it in the fire outside the camp, as the Lord had commanded Moses to do. He next brought forward the ram of the burnt offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. When it was slaughtered, Moses splashed the blood on the sides of the altar. After the ram was cut up into pieces, Moses burned the head, the cut up pieces, and the suet. After the inner organs and the shanks were washed with water, Moses burned these remaining parts on the ram on the altar. It was a burnt offering for a sweet aroma, an oblation to the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then he brought forward the 2nd ram, the ordination ram, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. When it was slaughtered, Moses took some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right toe. Moses had the sons of Aaron also come forward, and he put some of the blood on the lobes of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toes of their right feet. The rest of the blood he splashed on the sides of the altar. Then he took the fat, the fatty tail, and all the fat over the inner organs, the lobe of the liver, and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and likewise the right thigh, from the basket of unleavened bread that was set before the Lord. He took 1 unleavened cake, 1 loaf of bread made with oil, and 1 wafer. Then he placed on top of the portions of fat and the right thigh. He then put all these things upon the palms of Aaron and his sons, whom he had raised them as an elevated offering before the Lord. When Moses had removed them from their palms, he burned them on the altar with the burnt offering. They were an donation offering for a sweet aroma, an oblation to the Lord. Then he took the brisket and raised it as an elevated offering before the Lord. This was Moses' own portion of the ordination ram, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Taking some of the anointing oil and some of the blood that was on the altar, Moses sprinkled it upon Aaron and his vestments, as well as his sons and their vestments, thus consecrating both Aaron and his vestments and his sons and their vestments. Moses said to Aaron and his sons, "Boil the meat at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and there eat it with the bread that is in the basket of the ordination offering. In keeping with the command I have received, Aaron and his sons shall eat of it. What is left over of the meat and the bread you shall burn with fire. Moreover, you are not to depart from the entrance of the tent of meeting for 7 days, until the days of your ordination are completed. For your ordination is to last for 7 days. What has been done today, the Lord has commanded be done, to make atonement for you. You must remain at the entrance of the tent of meeting and night for 7 days, carrying out the prescriptions of the Lord, so that you may not die. For this is the command I have received." So Aaron and his sons did all that the Lord had commanded through Moses. On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron and his sons together with the elders of Israel, and said to Aaron, "Take a calf of the herd for a purification offering and a ram for a burnt offering, both without blemish, and offer them before the Lord. Tell the Israelites too, take a he-goat for a purification offering, a calf and a lamb, both unblemished yearlings, for a burnt offering, and an ox and a ram for a communion sacrifice, to sacrifice before the Lord, along with a grain offering mixed with oil. For today the Lord will appear to you." So they brought what Moses had ordered before the tent of meeting. When the whole community had come forward and stood before the Lord, Moses said, "This is what the Lord orders you to do, that the glory of the Lord may appear to you. Approach the altar." Moses then told Aaron, "And make your purification offering and your burnt offering in atonement for yourself and for your household. Then make the offering of the people in atonement for them as the Lord has commanded." Approaching the altar, Aaron first slaughtered the calf of the purification offering that was his own offering. When his sons presented the blood to him, he dipped his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. The rest of the blood he poured at the base of the altar. He then burned on the altar the fat, the kidneys, and the lobe of the liver from the purification offering, as the Lord had commanded Moses. But the flesh and the hide he burned in the fire outside the camp. Then Aaron slaughtered the burnt offering. When his sons brought him the blood, he splashed it on the sides of the altar. They then brought him the pieces of the head of the burnt offering, and he burned them on the altar. Having washed the inner organs and the shanks, he burned these also with the burnt offering. Then he had the people's offering brought, taking the goat that was for the people's purification offering. He slaughtered it and offered it as a purification offering as before. Then he brought forward the burnt offering and offered it according to procedure. He then presented the grain offering, taking a handful of it. He burned it on the altar in addition to the morning burnt offering. Finally, he slaughtered the ox and the ram, the communion sacrifice of the people. When his sons brought him the blood, Aaron splashed it on the sides of the altar. The portions of the fat from the ox and from the ram, the fatty tail covering fat, the kidneys, and the lobe of the liver, they placed on top of the briskets. Aaron burnt the fat pieces on the altar, but the briskets and the right thigh he raised as an elevated offering before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Aaron then raised his hands over the people and blessed them. When he came down from the offering, the purification offering, the burnt offering and the communion offering. Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting. On coming out, they blessed the people. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Fire came forth from the Lord's presence and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. Seeing this, all the people shouted with joy and fell prostrate. This is the word of the Lord.